Okay, welcome everyone to the Indie Basketball Podcast. And we're back today with a special Playlist Makers episode. This is only the second one we've done. It's been a minute, but super excited to do that today. For those that don't know, Playlist Makers is kind of a fantasy draft style episode where we collectively draft songs and we create a playlist together with my esteemed guests. You can think of it like a live round of Music League, which if you don't know Music League, you should check that out because it's super fun. But to do this, I have three wonderful guests joining me who I will introduce, and we'll start with my top left screen, which would be Royce, aka you may know him as Shoshin Boy on TikTok.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome,
Excited to
dude.
be here.
Absolutely, man. And it's just like I mentioned this before we kind of hit the record button, but you are in the middle of the Venn diagram for indie basketball. I
Oh,
feel like so. I'm super happy to have you
that's
on
great to hear. Shoot, it's flattering.
for sure. Next we also have Matt Mitchell, wonderful music writer. You're at Paste Magazine. Um, Also exquisite fits posted to the Instagram. I gotta say, well done.
I appreciate that.
And with the hat today too, especially love it. But yeah, thanks for joining, dude.
Happy to be here.
And finally, we have Kevin Patrick Sullivan, who you may better know as Field Medic, making some sweet lo-fi acoustic type tunes. Dude, thank you as well for joining.
Of course, my pleasure.
Rounding it out, and thanks Matt for the connect as well to get Kevin on. And yeah, this will be a fun one because today what we are kind of drafting for this playlist makers is we are going to be doing songs from a debut album. Before we kind of kick off the ground rules and stuff, how you guys feel about kind of these picks, like the songs for a debut album? Or do you have like a lot you're kind of thinking? Because to me, there's a lot of places we can go with it.
Yeah, I nerded out. I have like 20 potential songs.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just like
Mhm.
gonna feel what the vibes are. This was a fun one. Like I was like going listen to old music, like listen to entire albums front to back.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I was like debut album, and inevitably that brought me back to like 2002, 2004, like some of the debuts from my all-time favorites, and it was really taking me down memory lane listening to it. So I got some good stuff, I think.
for
I feel
sure.
like I do.
If it's anything that you teased to me on Saturday, then I am stoked. But
Mhm.
yeah, last summer, um, the Pace Music staff, we spent like 5 weeks like doing write-ups about debut records from like the 60s all the way to now. And so I spent a lot of time then with it, and I didn't pick a single song from any of those records that we talked about. And um, so no Marquee Moon by Television will be selected by me tonight, even though I would have
Okay.
loved to. But
Okay.
you know,
Yeah, and as I was looking as well, it's just like there were so many albums that I'm like, that was their first album. Like it's just
mhm.
like hard to believe, but some people really they came out swinging. It was some good stuff, especially in that era you mentioned, Kevin, like the those like mid 2000s. There were a lot of like really great debut albums.
Yeah, it was taking me straight back to MySpace. I started
Yes,
reminiscing hard. There's some left fielder MySpace style picks in my list, so I hope I get
totally.
to those.
And that's what's cool too is like in the end this is a playlist.
Hmm.
It can, we can bounce off of each other, but we can also 180 it, like no big deal. It doesn't matter, and so keeping it open, there's infinite genres. um but yeah, it'll be fun. Let me quickly do some kind of like things to note as we're doing this, just some things I want to put out there. So this is fantasy draft style, but like I said, we're ultimately making a playlist. So that's going to be like the final output. There are strategies, if you want to just go with the flow and play off who drafted right before you, you can do that, or you can just go with your gut. You can just pick your five favorites. Um, and I don't know how you guys are feeling, but like, I also don't think this necessarily has to be like the best songs from album openers. It could just be like, you could also have a song that you think people really should hear that's like from a first album Could be a new artist. Like it's really all over the place.
Love it.
Yeah, so I do think whoever gets first pick, which we will determine through a really arbitrary trivia question,
Mhm.
whoever gets first pick is going to kind of set the tone a little bit. This, like I said, this will be on a Spotify playlist. We will draft serpentine order, so first pick in the first round will get last pick in the second round, and we will draft a total of 5 rounds. And a couple notes, yeah, no repeat albums. So, if I pick a song off an album, don't pick another song off that album. And then we kind of addressed this a little earlier, but it must be off an album, not a compilation, not a EP or single drop, anything like that. So or mixtape. It should be their first proper studio album, even if it is self-released. So that's kind of all the points. You guys ready to get into it?
So ready.
Let's do it. So to determine the draft order, what we'll do, I have a really random question that will be the indie basketball intersection that there's no reason any of you should know this. But in 2014, and a couple years before that, Win Butler put on a charity basketball tournament called Pop vs. Jock as a part of Pop Montreal. And it had a lot of, indie rock. It had dudes from the Strokes. David Byrne was there. Justin Vernon was there. And the question I have for all of you is Price is Right rules. Closest with, well, I wouldn't say closest without going over, but the closest to the number. What was Justin Vernon from Bon Iver's jersey number?
Wow.
Like I said, completely arbitrary.
Ooh.
We'll go one at a time. Whoever
Well, I
wants to
might
go
think
first.
I'm like thinking like there's any way
Yeah.
to deduce it other than just a random guess. So 15.
Okay. 15 for Royce.
I'm gonna say 58.
One with the high number.
Uh-huh.
I'm just gonna pick 22 because of his album title, 22 a
That's a
million.
very good guess. And
That's actually smart. Yeah.
so while I actually did see on Google Images a picture of him wearing a jersey that had number 22, it wasn't for that tournament. And
Wow.
I scoured pictures for the tournament, and he is number 7. So that would mean Royce wins this one because he is closest.
Oh wow.
With 15.
The power of the guess.
So with that trivia win, you get to determine the draft order. So 1 through 4, you tell us who's picking where.
Do I want to go first?
Do you? Because then you're gonna have to wait. But
I'll go first. I don't mind waiting. I'll go first.
Set
I'll
the
try to set
tone.
the tone. So I'll go first, selfishly, and then I guess I could just go in the order that's appearing on my screen. So then it'd be Matt, indie basketball, Kevin, Matt Mitchell.
Oh, I didn't even think twice that there were 2 Matts there.
I'm sorry, I wasn't going to take a swing and try to pronounce that name properly.
That's
I'm
fair,
happy to be in the snake position.
Yes. So you get to go 2 in a row then.
I'm gonna do it's gonna be a double tone setting moment. Yes. I'm hoping.
Or you could just 180 yourself.
I am going to. That is what I'm planning to do.
A lot of power in that position.
All right. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get the clock going. What's the number 1 pick on this playlist, man?
So I think number 1 pick, thinking a lot about it. Britpop's been real big in the news. So everyone's been talking about it. Everyone's been trying to get their tickets. There's no other way, Blur.
Oh, with you fooled us. You really did.
I was more of a Blur guy before I became a huge Oasis guy for some reason.
Okay.
And I think that song's so good. And in a lot of ways, has aged better than a lot of Oasis stuff.
Sure.
Not that I don't think.
Which song did you say by Blur?
There's No Other Way.
Gotcha. All right. I
just think it sounds really cool. It's like a cool sounding song to listen to in 2024. The drums are sick on it.
I think it was so interesting. Was it? Am I mistaken? Was it Blur that recently said like we're never doing this again?
Oh, I don't know
Who
because
was
like
at the
Blur's been
who was at
reasonably
the
active.
festival that was just reunited? That
Oh, they
kind
It
of
played
was
Coachella and
Blur.
they
It was
yeah.
Blur.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I hate he's like talking shit to the crowd. Like, I hate this. We're not doing this again.
they kind of fell flat at Coachella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
He's
it
got
seems like a
gorillas.
yeah, right. Yeah, he's
He's
still got
fine.
gorillas. Yeah, true. But it seems like, yeah, no one in the crowd really knew who Blur was, which is kind of strange, but um there's just too much. But yeah, Blur's a good first pick on this one. Was it were they kind of a kind of instrumental band for you kind of growing up? Was that like your introduction to Brit rock a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. For me, like that was they were huge for me in high school because I don't know if that was around the time where they reunited or not. I can't remember. Everything's
Mhm.
blurred together at this point. But I would just like play like long Blur festival sets while doing homework. And like
For
a
sure.
Blur festival set in the UK where everyone's singing
Oh
along is like
man.
a magical thing.
A
Which is why I could
Glastonbury.
imagine how different it was in Coachella at Coachella where like no one knows any of the words. Because like they play over there and people
Yeah.
are like there's a B side and everyone is just singing along at the top of their lungs.
Yeah, that's the difference. It's Glastonbury versus Coachella.
It's Coachella or like
Yeah.
it's like if you're not playing song two, I'm not picking up what you're putting
Yeah.
down. Like
All right, sick. Okay. I'm second pick. And so my approach with this whole thing is I am gonna kind of I have my a lot of picks, but I have options. So I'm gonna kind of be fluid and just do something that isn't a complete 180, but it wouldn't be too distracting off the previous pick. So after Blur, I think this wouldn't be that weird to go next into. And it's from that era, Kevin, you were talking about. I went with not so much the MySpace era, maybe a little bit after that, but no, that's probably MySpace era. I'm going with Obstacle One by Interpol, which is just like that song is like such, which it's that indie sleaze era, which is definitely making a comeback right now. Um, and man, that the bass line in that song just like is so insane every time I hear it. Cause when I the first instrument I learned was bass, and um other than Seven Nation Army. um, that was one where I'm like, oh man, bass can really stand out over guitar sometimes. And obviously, like the Who is another one that showed me that. But man, I love that. Turn on the Bright Lights is just such a good debut album. And that's one of those ones I was talking about. Where like, I can't believe this is a first album.
it was a sick one. Does anyone sing like him? Like why hasn't anyone tried to rip off how he sings? Like you hear the moment he starts singing, he's like, that's Interpol. It's the
I
best.
know. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely one of my favorites, and too many good songs on the album in general. But Obstacle One, just I love that bass line. Um, all right. So moving on down the list, following that, Kevin, it's your first pick.
Okay, I'm trying to think about following that stuff. I'm going to keep it a little bit. It's not quite cohesive, but it's not as much of a 180 as it could be with some of these other picks. We're going back to what I think is probably the best album ever made. Um, it's a song called "It's Good to Be in Love" by Frou Frou off their album
Ooh.
Details, which I know it does sound it's a little bit different than Blur and Interpol, but it's probably the most cohesive I have at this point in time.
Sure. I think era
Um,
wise, it makes sense.
yeah, exactly, and I think it's just incredible album. I know that Frou Frou is having sort of a resurgence with that "A New Kind of Love" demo that went hella viral. But for ever since it came out, my dad had this album, and so I've been listening to it since 2000 or 2002 when it came out, and it's just so good. So hard to pick one song from it.
Right.
I love that song so much. So it's good to be in love by Frou Frou.
I feel like that's going to be a problem a lot of us are going to have is deciding which song off the
Oh, yeah.
album to pick.
Yeah.
Um, that's a good pick though. It takes me back to like the OC soundtrack days.
Oh yeah, classic.
Oh,
uh all right. So fourth one, end of the first round for this. Matt, it's your pick.
When I wrote this down, I was like, if I come out of the gates with this as my first pick, they're gonna think I'm clowning this entire idea. But it's a perfect song, and I'm going to take "We Built This City" by Starship as my
Ooh.
first pick.
Ooh.
Yeah, a little Jefferson Airplane offshoot. What I was saying though is I think it's one of the best pop songs of all time, even though it's canonically considered one of the worst songs ever made.
I, I
But
think the first
I'm just such a Starship apologist. Like nothing's gonna stop us now. Also fantastic. And I'm here to reclaim "We Built This City" as one of the greatest pieces of the American music
There you
lexicon that
go.
we've ever had.
hell yeah,
Um,
I'm all on
so
board for that.
That's one
The
that's surprising to me that it's their first. They just came out with that, you know?
so like it's Jefferson Starship that did that song. We're considering them separate from Jefferson Airplane.
mhm.
Okay, I see what you're
Starship.
doing there.
Yeah, it's just Starship.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just Starship.
Grace
Okay,
Slick. Yeah, Grace Slick, isn't it? It's basically an
I'm
offshoot, but considered a debut. So I'm keeping it with
I'm
You
that.
know what?
unfamiliar
That's
with their
fine.
game, I guess.
Yeah,
The
that's
first time I
fine.
heard that song, you mentioned that it's canonically considered a bad song, was I think VH1 did a list of like the 100 worst songs of all time, and I think that might have won it. But I think I need to go re-listen through this list. I'm willing to. I'm here for the reclamation project.
I try to move to a different part of the house if you give me a moment if I'm
Yeah,
still
no
frozen up.
problem. Yeah, I'm
All
just
right.
catching them out.
I've never heard
Yes.
this Starship song, I don't think. I'm gonna have
Wait,
to look that
we
up.
built a city. You've never heard that one?
How does it go?
Who's gonna
Royce,
do the
I'll
honors?
let you do the honors.
Oh no! Like we built this city,
I'll rock and
and
roll.
roll.
It's
It's a
Probably
car
heard
very
it.
anthem.
I've probably heard it.
yeah, it's very has a very like 80s kind of I wouldn't say hair metal, but it's not that much of a leap from like Poison or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
It's anthemic
It
in the way that
is.
only the '80s could be.
All right, I'm gonna add that to my list of things to decide if it's the worst song ever made or not.
We built this city. We love the
Yes.
pick. I think we're all kind of curious now where you're going to go after this.
I think I'm gonna do like a total 180, and I'm gonna pick "L.A. Freeway" from Guy Clark.
Okay, I like that.
Just like, he was in his like mid 30s when he wrote the song. It's one of the most beautiful songs about California ever written. One of the most. It's just like one of those songs from a debut that I'm like, I cannot believe that this song hasn't existed forever. Um, like, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It just has like some absolute magic in it. Guy Clark's an all timer. And I was gonna save this one for later in the draft, but I'm gonna pick it now as like since I'm in the snake position.
Yeah, that's I actually don't know this one, so I'm excited to listen to it and check it out. For those who haven't heard, can you explain what's the vibe of Guy Clark in general?
Oh, singer songwriter, cowboy chords. It's as quintessentially like Laurel Canyon folk
Hmm.
slash country rock as you can possibly get. It's very solemn, very melancholy. So if you want to get emo, put a little LA Freeway by
Oh,
Guy
I'm
Clark
always
on.
ready to get
If
emo.
you want to get emo, put on this country album real quick.
Put it
But Guy
on.
Clark does get silly too.
Oh,
He's got
cool.
some silly tracks as
He
well.
does. Yep.
Silly and emo sounds right down my alley.
Yes.
It's the perfect combo.
Sick. Okay. So that's, from Frou Frou to Starship to Guy Clark. That's quite a journey we're taking. So I
Hmm.
feel like there is no law. We can go any direction at this point. Um so Kevin, it's going back to you.
It's me now?
Yeah, it's serpentine. We go up and down.
Oh, okay. Well, since we're going crazy style with it, I'm gonna draft a song called "The Underwood Typewriter" by an Irish singer-songwriter called Fionn Reagan.
Mm.
Um, this is his first record. It's called "The End of History." It's like the best album ever. Just quintessential insane finger style guitar. This is track 2, and he comes in hot with this track. Very just very technical, really sort of disorienting in a beautiful way
Mhm.
picking. And I think this will flow nicely after Guy Clark. It's an amazing song, just all around. And once again, hard to pick just one song.
I feel like this is if we're equating this to a basketball team, this is the versatile utility player that can get us into any direction we want to go.
Yeah, and he's like, and he's keeping it chill too.
Yeah.
Like he's always ready to pass or open for the pass, but then all of a sudden he's lobbing the half court buzzer
Hell yeah.
beater.
It's been a while since I've listened to Fionn Reagan, so that's taking me down memory lane for sure. I need to get back into that. Sweet. Good pick. All right. So bouncing off that, I'm on to my second one. Um, I'm just like looking at my playlist right now because I could go a lot of ways. I'm gonna go. So this is kind of moving it into another direction. Also singer songwriter, I guess technically. Um, First and only album. I'm going with "Last Goodbye" by Jeff Buckley, which God, like that album is just that's easily top five all time for me.
Oh, it's so good.
And it was hard. That was another one. It was hard for me to pick like what song I wanted to do, but "Last Goodbye" is just like it has so many kind of like levels to it, and the ups and downs, and like it's quiet and then it's loud and heartbreaking, and it's like all the things from a debut album. It's just so insane. Really wish we got the follow-up.
Yeah.
But
You know
man,
how like a certain album will give you it's that album memory. Like I didn't know about Jeff Buckley until I was on tour with my old band and my drummer was like obsessed with that album. And this was before like aux cables. So we just had that CD and I've heard it like a million times and it's amazing.
yeah, I don't think I actually got into this album until I was in probably college, other than hearing the obvious Hallelujah cover.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once, and it's funny too, is like what I love about this album is that Hallelujah is like not the only cover on there. Like Lilac Wine is a cover, and like that's one I didn't even know until years later that there was a cover. um yeah, Last Goodbye is
It's such a
amazing, obviously.
bold choice to put a cover on a debut album like that.
Right. Two covers.
But I mean, like, if anyone could do it, like, I mean,
Which
it's so bold and like it just makes that album hit so hard that
some
do
people
it
can
twice and
really
so
do it, obviously, like Iron and Wine's been doing covers routinely like his whole career. So is Jose Gonzalez, like it's
oh yeah,
there's a niche for it, some people can pull it off.
Jose Gonzalez. I've heard that name in a while.
Yeah. All right,
Oh man, this is a
Royce,
tough one to follow.
you're up next. Yeah,
it's such like a
because that's why, man, like this is also another, I feel like, kind of swing song where you can keep going like in a more singer-songwriter position, or you can go heavier because like parts of the song are super heavy.
I got two picks, right?
So you're back to back.
I could do both. I could do one
keep
in
stepping
line,
it
and
up.
then I
Yeah.
could. So the move might be to go something completely appropriate and then do something completely inappropriate just to set the next round off. Which I think that's going to be.
Now that you're saying it, I think that's what we got to do.
So, Clementine by Elliott Smith, I think, is a pretty appropriate follow up.
I feel like thematically,
that's an amazing
sure.
album. It's kind of a safe one. I mean, I love Elliott Smith. To think about that album in context, like with him coming off of Heat Miser, is like also very interesting to me. Like I wish I could like go back in time and hear this album for the first time, because like Heat Miser is like gets real heavy and like almost grungy in points, and I like love Heat Miser. And that debut is like so like toned down and like so much the blueprint for like what Elliott Smith did later on. I feel like it's appropriate follow up.
Absolutely.
I think an inappropriate follow up would be Mastermind by Deltron 3030.
That's the 180 I want. What I like too is so far you guys are like, whoever's on the end, like the two in a row is like giving yourself the opportunity to just go crazy.
I mean, it's the button position, right?
So which song by Deltron?
Mastermind, which I think is the big song off that album, which is like almost 2 hours long. I was listening to that front to bottom kind of while I was getting set up here. I was like, I forgot how like weird and all over the place and experimental that entire album is. That's like, so it's Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Kid Koala, Dan the Automator. That's a year before the Gorillaz debut
Mhm.
that Dan produced on, and Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Bay Area
Right.
legend. It's like Clint Eastwood.
One of the first Deck Gorillaz albums, one of the first albums I ever bought.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good one. That's a real good one. I mean, I love Del the Funky Home Sapien. That's like he's definitely
Yeah.
top five MC for me.
Absolutely.
Gotta rep the Bay Area. I was like, I gotta pick one like Bay Area pick for sure. And I think Del have to rep him.
Super good.
Just like such a good album. Like it's so weird. I forgot there's like a Great White North, like Mackenzie Brothers, like SCTV reference in one of the
Mhm.
skits. Like that just came out of nowhere. I was like, they were really cooking with this one.
Uh-huh.
Like just 2 hours of just dope beats,
Shit.
insane shit.
That's
Hell
good. We
yeah.
got our first hip hop pick on here. So uh
And appropriately after Elliott Smith, like
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Naturally. Uh now I have a dilemma. Do I keep that going or do I pivot? Because I feel like Deltron is like, he's like that album is so like conceptual that you can
oh
kind of
yeah.
go like a different kind of conceptual way with it. Um I'm gonna go adjacent. I'm gonna go with Bad Religion by Frank Ocean.
Ooh.
Because that Frank Ocean album is just top to bottom so good. And his follow-up album was also incredible, and we're all still waiting for the next one that everyone
I know.
everyone everyone won't stop asking for. But that first one, like I remember seeing God, what was it, the VMAs or was it the Grammys maybe? Where he was doing that performance where he had like a walking pedestal. Was that for Forrest Gump?
I
Hmm.
think that was the
Yep. That was
VMAs.
it was
That was
the
Forrest Gump.
Grammys.
It
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 was
was
the
was the
Grammys. Okay,
Grammys.
okay.
Forrest Gump at the Grammys. Yeah.
Yeah, he had that pedestal with the video of him just like walking. And I remember that performance like stuck out in my mind so strongly. And two, I think he had a great performance on like Conan or something like some late night. What I don't know which late night show it was, but
I literally did a video about it like 2 weeks ago, and
yeah,
I
that's right. That's
forgot.
right.
I forgot which one it
You
was
you
on. I
are the
think it was
you are the
found. I
king
think
of
it was
late night
found.
performances. I feel like you love reminiscing on those,
I
which
mean,
is
I was
awesome.
such a odd feature kid too. So like
Yeah, for sure.
when he was popping off, I was like so into it. Every performance on the award show or late night felt like such a victory. When I
Yeah.
was asking about mixtapes, I wanted to pick something off of Nostalgia Ultra, but you vetoed that. So I
Yeah,
wanted to what
we're not gonna do any, Childish Gambino, I'm just a rapper, which is sorry, that's a tangent, but like so weird hearing that stuff after the more recent stuff he's done. But all right, yeah. Frank Ocean, Bad Religion, which is of all the songs on that album, definitely such like an emotive song. That's one that really stuck out to me is like when I first heard it, such like a lyrically stands out as like it sounds like this sort of singer songwriter sort of vibe, but coming through in an R&B style, which is like awesome. So that's my pick, and we are going back to Kevin now.
Okay, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I feel like this song has a sort of intermission type feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So, although it's a different genre, I think it fits well in between whatever comes after it and what just came before. This is a song called Coffee by a band called Copeland, to keep it classically 2002.
Copeland. Whew.
Yeah, I love this band, and their first record, Beneath the Medicine Tree, is just, I used to listen to it on my Discman,
Yeah.
and I'm obsessed with them. And that song is just so sweet and
Yeah.
emo to me. And yeah, I just love that song. I think that band is underrated goats.
Absolutely. Copeland takes me back to like the Pure Volume days.
Oh
Uh
yeah, I was fully on Pure Volume in my like freshman
Absolutely.
year graphic design class, listening to
Yeah, it was
Copeland,
like
and then like
Copeland. I listen on Pure Volume. I was listening to like Copeland and like Daphne Loves Derby. And like,
I have a Daphne song on here. Daphne is
oh
like
god,
one of my all-time favorite bands from that era. I mean, wait, I was supposed to spoil it. I don't
I
have a
know.
Daphne song, but
I was the one who set the
I did
rule,
hear
and
that.
I went and spoiled it.
yeah, I love that band.
Yeah, Copeland's great. I saw, man, when I was like maybe 15 or 16, I saw Copeland play at the Metro in Chicago with Owen and Appleseed Cast. And that was like
Wow.
the wildest lineup for a show I've ever seen. It's just like so completely different. Like Owen being completely different, like, obviously American football, that's like a different level of emo in there. And then like
Yeah.
Appleseed Cast is a different, like a more kind of post-rocky type, it was just like all over the place, but it was so cool.
I
Uh,
saw Copeland on their farewell tour, and they had I Can Make a Mess Like Nobody's Business opening. But the thing that stuck out to me the most is that Aaron Marsh, the singer, was wearing a pea coat, a scarf, and a beanie the entire set. And it was
oh
like,
man.
it was a venue, so it was really hot.
Yeah.
And
Jeez.
I really admired his commitment to the steez. It's like, when you come out on stage in sunglasses, you can't take them off.
Hmm.
So I think that's where his scarf and his peacoat and beanie come in.
Right. Incredible. Yeah, Copeland. This could change the landscape of this
Mm-hmm.
playlist, but Matt, you'll be the one to let us know if that's going to happen.
Well, I feel like there's nothing better to pair with like an early 2000s emo song than a pop song from 1963. It just feels
Agreed.
right.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go with "I Only Want to Be with You" by Dusty Springfield. It was
Wow.
it was her first song that she ever made as a solo artist, and I think it's just one of the like most beautiful performances in like the in the English language. And the fact that it was her first single she ever put out is pretty incredible because she right off the bat just mastered the ability to sing like she was performing gospel music, but also make it incredibly sexy at the same time. It's not an easy feat to hit, and I return to that song so often, and I'm like, I cannot believe that this is that this just exists. It's one of the greatest pop songs ever.
Amazing. Yeah, I appreciate that you're like, because in like you said, this is a playlist, and we can do straightforward, like these are like the top songs from a debut album, and we'll get a lot of what you would expect. And this is just like you're also balancing recommendations for people and things you want people to hear. And I think this is an excellent pick. I'm loving all your picks so far.
I'm saving my last pick of the night is going to be an absolute barn burner. So I'm really saving the juice for last.
That's the suspense.
Well,
Uh-huh.
you get your second to last pick right away.
My next pick is going to be "Tell Me When My Light Turns Green" by Dexy's Midnight Runners. I think everybody knows that band from Come On Eileen, and rightfully so, but
Right.
the shit that they were putting out in like 1980 is fucking awesome. Like it is, back when they were like when Kevin Rowland's band, like punk band Killjoys, disbanded, and he's like, I don't know what to do, so let's just make this band that is like doing ska, they're doing punk, they're doing they're doing everything under the sun, and it's so awesome. And I heard it the first time. I Come On Eileen has been one of my favorite songs of all time for years, but I was at a
Mhm.
car seat headrest show in like 2019, like right before COVID, and they were doing to end their set. They were doing a mashup of "Hey Ya" by Outkast and "Tell Me When Your Light Turns Green" by Dexy's Midnight Runners.
That sounds amazing.
It was the most insane collage of two songs I've ever heard, and I was like, what is this song? And now I'm just forever, eternally obsessed with that song.
Oh man, incredible. I feel like too now, like we had kind of a little bit of a lull in this playlist, and you're picking it back up again, which things were slowing down, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we can start to pick the pace up a little bit. Sweet, good pick. That takes us right to you, Kevin.
Oh, I forget how the snake works. Okay, we're picking it up. All right, this is going to pick it up. Another song that I love. It's called "I Won't Be Found" by the Tallest Man on Earth from his first record, Shallow Grave. Just from off rip, I had this on my iPod Uh, just so inspirational. The whole album is amazing. And, you know, as far as energy is concerned, this is probably the most energy that any song that's just literally one guy and a guitar could
Yeah,
have. And incredible album, incredible song.
love that dude. I feel like I've always said that like it's awesome to see like a Swedish dude do Americana better than any American.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times with bands, like I feel like bands that are like English second language, like Tallest Man on Earth or Mew, or like
You,
my I Love Blade, like Swedish rappers. Like I feel like when English isn't your first language, the things you write in English are so interesting. And yeah, it was incredible to hear. Yeah, because of course, when I first heard the Tallest Man, I didn't know he was from Sweden, and then you're
yeah,
like, dude, this dude has an accent, and like, yeah, he's sick, so
yeah,
sick.
so good. Yeah, my introduction was The Wild Hunt, which is one of my favorite albums. But yeah,
Yeah,
Shallow Grave is no more. It's not a lesser album by any means. Like
yeah,
it's a strong debut, and that unfortunately I didn't hear until after his second one.
it makes sense though. Like, I feel like Wild Hunt he like perfected, and I think Shallow Grave he was just having fun, which
Yeah.
is, as to your point, it's just as amazing. But Wild Hunt is like that classic, just insane second album.
Okay. Yes, solid one. Um, moving on to my fourth pick. I feel like I want to get a little louder
Okay,
coming off of that. And let's see. Man, I this playlist could have easily been like 50 plus songs for me, and I had to stop myself. I have 22 on here. I am gonna do so this will actually mean this play the linking in this playlist will mean more to me because obviously Tallest Man on Earth was like a big kind of artist for me, kind of end of high school, early college. And then another band that I was super into in high school that I'm, not a ton of people know about is a band called Moving Mountains. And they were kind of this very Appleseed Cast like. They were very like kind of this post rock sort of emo band. Um, that first album they put out is a concept album that's pretty much directly dedicated to the lead singer's best friend who died. And lyrically, so like very emotional, very touching, all these metaphors of like, being one with the earth and like with nature after you die and all this stuff. And it's a beautiful album. My only wish is like I wish like the production quality was a little like I wish it got a good remaster. Because it was their first album that they self-produced, and it's very kind of like low budget in production, but man, those songs are beautiful. So the song off that album I'm picking is 8105, which will be a nice little 8 minute 30 second
nice.
uh middle of the playlist song to throw in there. But it's I think coming off of Tallest Man on Earth, it has that sort of like it's like slow but loud. There's a lot of delay in the guitars. It's one of my favorite albums from high school. So yeah, I had to go with Moving Mountains. I would
I
highly
can't wait.
recommend them if you like I said, Appleseed Cast, or if you like any of those. I don't know what wave emo bands, but if you like Thrice, I feel like you would like them. Like the like later Thrice, you definitely like them. So yeah, Moving Mountains.
Check it out. I hadn't heard of them, which kind of makes my next pick a little more difficult because I don't really have a framework to go off of. And these are my last two, huh?
Yeah, you got back to back,
Oof.
and then you're out.
Let's see what do I want to get in there? And what
They're still so ready.
what do I imagine based on your description? We'll go with this. Let's see. The one that like I really wanted to put on. You're talking about like when to put people on to stuff.
Hmm.
One I really want to be on this playlist, which there's not the recorded version on Spotify, which is something I asked. But it's this band called Number Girl. which they're like a fairly big Japanese band. I don't know if y'all have heard of them.
Okay.
And debut album Schoolgirl Bye Bye, I believe. And I think the first track, Omide in My Head, is just an absolute banger, kind of emo-ish, very like 90s. Uh, they have a song called Pixie Do,
Okay.
the mashup of Pixies and Husker Du, which is like all you really kind of need to know about the sound of that band.
Okay.
Uh, but their stuff like isn't that available in the United States. Like I think I had to buy that CD
Got it.
to get it. But there's a live version of it on Spotify from
If
like,
there's a version of it somehow on Spotify, then that's what's gonna
and the
we'll
live
get it.
version is really good. They're an
Cool.
amazing live band. And like that is a song that like based on your description of the last band, the last song, I think like it kind of fits. And like despite the language barrier, it's one of those songs sometimes when you're talking about like a Swedish person writing in English, but sometimes there's
Right.
like songs in another language where you know exactly what they're saying, even though you
Yeah.
have no idea what they're saying.
And I've had this discussion recently too. I think you could do that with like instrumental bands too. Like there's a
Oh
song by the
yeah,
band Mono that like makes me so sad. It's called Sabbath, and I don't think anyone will pick Mono on here, but yeah, dude, like sometimes you don't need to like hear the words
some
to
things
tell me
just
that it's sad. Yeah.
defy translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one will like get me almost emotional every day in my head, despite knowing like five of the words in it. And it's a banger. Like very 90s inspired, and the live
So
version's so good. Such a
so
tight live band.
okay.
How am I gonna follow it up though?
With your final
The
pick.
serpentine thing is such a difficult thing. And who do I do another 180?
Is there some in my opinion, I feel like it's like this is your last pick. There's got to be something that you would look back on and be like, I can't believe I never took that one.
That was kind of that last one. That was kind of the
Okay.
memorable song. So now I feel like I got a complete blank slate here.
I feel like you do like yeah like that whatever like that last pick because I don't think any of us are familiar. So excited to go back and listen, but you got to open slate here.
I have some real random ones that might ruin the party, which might be funny to pick, but maybe I can. Um, ooh, this might ruin the playlist, but there's another 8 minute song, but it feels very topical that I might want to pick it.
Let's do it.
Uh, Losing My Edge, LCD Sound System, which I try not to go on Twitter, aka X, that much anymore, but I feel like that song was kind of going around because there's the clip from Meet Me in the Bathroom where James Murphy's like talking about the impetus of that song, like
Right.
feeling so uncool because access to music and like cool music when he's DJing was so easy, and it made him reassess everything. And people were clowning on him hard, clowning on him real hard, thinking he was a major loser, which he very well might be. But god damn it, I fucking love LCD Sound System. I don't care what anyone says, and like not just a debut song off. It's like their debut song. It's the first song they ever did, not
Yeah.
just off of the first album. I think I can't think of like a more like put together thesis of like what a project was going to be.
I had a
Uh,
feeling something from this album was going to show up on here for sure.
I mean, that song is for as simple and dumb and jokey as it is. I'll put that on in the car and like I'll listen the whole eight minutes of that thing.
Sick. That's good. Sweet, man. That's a good one. I feel like that again, that opens up the energy to kind of go a lot of different directions. God, there's two. So like I just mentioned, like there's two songs that and I only have one pick left, and I'm bummed I didn't pick it before. Um, I think I'm going to go with. I'm gonna go with and say what you will about it, but I am gonna pick a song off of Funeral by Arcade Fire just because that is one of like the coolest debut albums I'd ever heard. And obviously, Win Butler has issues, but I remember seeing, and I know that Royce, you've talked about late night performances a lot, but the performance of Neighborhood Number Two, like on Conan O'Brien, blew my mind when I saw that because you got dudes banging on trash cans and like playing instruments that I had never seen before, and there's like 10 people on stage. And that was my introduction to Arcade Fire, and like that definitely like kind of blew my mind open. And I still love that album so much. And I know there's a lot of issues with Win Butler, but that is one that I can't help but go back to and listen every now and then.
Have
Um,
you um have you read that blog post about Win Butler stealing that guy's basketball?
no, but I know he is like the basketball guy because he
I feel,
actually played an All-Star game.
I feel like this is a bit out of left field, but I feel like it's appropriate given the context. But there is a blog post from like 2007 that you could still read about a guy claiming Win Butler stole his basketball at the RSF at UC Berkeley, and Will Butler jumps in the comments, and you could read the entire flame war. To this day, it's not even way back machine. You can go to the blog spot or whatever. Apparently, it's low on the list of terrible things Win Butler has done, but apparently he sold dude's basketball in 2007 in Berkeley.
Wild, wild. That
The
dude
guy
is
blogged
all
about
around
it because it
wild,
was
but
2007.
sick. Okay, so that was my last pick. Um, Kevin, you're on to your last pick.
Okay, before I go to my final, I have to just do one honorable mention for
We,
an
we'll
artist
have a round
who's
of honorables that after we
okay.
last pick. Yeah,
Okay, then I'll do my final first.
yeah.
I blew this already. I have a lot to choose from here, but just in the spirit of stuff that people may not have heard, I'm gonna have to drop an acoustic classic, Pollen and Salt by Daphne Loves Derby, off their debut album, On the Strength of All Convinced. Um, this song, that whole album, their entire discography to this day, I feel holds up really well. I don't feel like they got as platinum as they should have been in
Yeah.
that era. Um, and I just, when I was younger, I was always drawn to, the classic acoustic ballad on a record, which I feel like Coffee for Copeland sort of is as well.
Mhm.
And this song is just so emo. It's a little bit of the time. I think it might be too like cute, precious for some people, but it's that's just my where I grew up. So I hope that people will hear it and see the love and check out the rest.
It's such an era, man, and like
Yeah,
it's so like ingrained in my like memories of, like we said, purevolume.com, and like just like
yeah.
they were such like a, even like their image was like the epitome of like
V-necks, the swoopy
scenester emo
hair.
swoops, yeah. But also like you said, they never really got to a certain level of popularity despite that whole boom of that genre. um
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating because, and this is obviously a little bit biased because they're like one of my all-time favorite bands, but I feel like their music is better than some of their contemporaries that blew up and maybe even like still have a career today. I think the songwriting, the lyrics, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, I feel like a lot of things with music is like luck. It's
yeah,
random, so I feel like if Daphne had gotten that OC sync,
right,
um, maybe they would still, have a huge fan base. But yeah, I was a full scene kid, and then I
absolutely.
heard Bob Dylan for the first time when I was like 16, and then over like the course of 6 months, I went from like straightening my hair and wearing a white belt to having like Ray-Bans on at all times and like carrying my guitar to school. So I'm grateful that Bob Dylan took me to a new place of
Right,
songwriting, but the MySpace Pure Volume, it lives on forever in
yeah,
my heart and soul.
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like like there's no reason that Daphne Observatory didn't like Jack's Mannequin, I feel like is of the same kind of
Uh-huh.
realm, but obviously he's doing his reunion tours and all that stuff still, and I haven't heard from them in a minute.
I do know that. So their singer Kenny, he like started a family. I think I think he, from what I understand, as like a super fan, he just like didn't want to do the tour
Yeah,
lifestyle anymore. So I think that if if he had been on board to keep doing van life, maybe they'd
right.
be going for it. But like he's chilling, he's got kids, He's has a normal job. So shout out to him
Yeah.
for doing what's right for him.
All right, Matt, last one. And you said you have a doozy for us.
Yeah, I would like to think that LCD Sound System and Arcade Fire both ran because this group walked 10 years earlier. I'm gonna pick a song called Neon Moon by Brooks and Dunn from
Ooh.
I think the 90s were really great for epic country songs off of debut country albums because there's like Should Have Been a Cowboy by Toby Keith and Chattahoochee by Alan Jackson, but there's something about Neon Moon that just gets me going. I think it's like a ballad that just sounds like it was made with $1 million instruments. I can't even begin to explain what it has done. And I and then Brooks and Dunn. I'm not a super country fan by any means. I am like a 90s and early Y2K country fan because it's when I was growing up. But I think like Brooks and Dunn was on some shit back in the 90s. They were putting out absolute heaters. But Neon Moon is one of those tracks I'm just like, man, these dudes, they should never stop making music together. I will forgive country's music's sins of the last 30 to 40 years if it means I can listen to Neon Moon for the rest of my life.
I love
That's
it.
a great pick.
Did you save it for last because you were worried that people would just like kind of see this in the middle of a playlist and just like stop them in their tracks?
I'm kind of hoping that somebody's going to listen to this playlist in order and not hit shuffle,
I
and
hope
then
so.
they get to track 20 and they're like, whoa, what the fuck is
They're
this?
like, is this the algorithm or is this still part of the playlist?
Yeah, is this a suggested song? But I saved it for last because I kind of was hoping that no matter what song Kevin picked before me, it was gonna fit anyways. And I think that's the power of Brooks and Dunn, baby. They can coalesce with any bad boy. So
I you
perfect way
know
to
I kind of wish like Sigur Rós was like right before this or something. Then that would have been a great segue.
Yeah.
I feel like
Definitely.
that's a style of country my mom would play in the car, and I hated it at the time. And I've only now like grown to be like, I don't know if it's because of where pop country has gone in the past 30 years, like you said, that like I've grown to appreciate how
hmm
amazing and, as you said, expensive those like 90s, early 2000s country sounds.
Yeah. It is funny. I
So
do
yeah.
feel like you like kind of like you mentioned, there are kind of like two paths that like this kind of music created. And part of that is the awful kind of pop country that it developed, but also there is some like actual like more on the folky side and stuff that
hmm
that spawned out of it.
I think like one of the best post COVID joys of my life has been going over to friends' houses, getting absolutely stoned out of our minds, and then like sitting on the floor and watching 90s country music videos for like 3 hours straight. And Neon Moon has never left the rotation. It's an absolute barn burner and feels like a perfect end cap to this
Love
whole
it.
shebang.
A perfect closer. No notes. uh Sick. Okay. We got a pretty solid playlist here. I'm excited to put this out. There's a lot of range in here. Um, I'm looking back right now. I do think this will flow better than we think.
Yeah.
Really
I
excited
um,
to
hope
listen to it.
I
yeah.
hope it
Yeah.
doesn't flow. I don't want it to flow. I want everyone to come away from this playlist with the worst musical whiplash they've ever had.
Incredible. Let's just like I'm gonna just rapid fire some honorable mentions. We'll go one at a time. I'm just gonna throw a couple out there. So the alternate to Arcade Fire pick that I did not pick was Red by Aquaville River, which
Okay.
is such a good freaking song and amazing to get Daniel Johnston on your debut album. Like what? Insane. So that one, I mean, none of us picked Vampire Weekend, which is a great debut album. Um, and then a recommendation of a smaller band's debut album that I love is Mother Evergreen. There's a song called Cass, which is phenomenal. It's kind of like ambient folk with a little bit of emo flair in there. But let's go back down. So Royce, why don't you give a couple honorable mentions?
Okay. Um, at one point I wanted to ruin the party and pick something off of Ceremony, Violence, Violence. Um, I want to put this to an end was going to be the choice because I think that I mean that album for a debut just to come out just like kick the door open with just like I mean Violence, Violence is such a
Mhm.
bold name for an album and they blew my mind when I saw them for the first time. That this song like blew my mind. That like outro like I'm a fucked up kid. So sick, but did not feel appropriate for the playlist. And then I guess like some anything off of Silent Alarm, the Block Party debut is
Yep.
just that's one of the best songs of all time. So I think I picked Helicopter if it was going to come to that.
Yeah, and another just one more of mine I forgot to mention. Someone that you're pals with, who was almost on this podcast, was Ryan Masoba. I almost picked the Medic off of Foxing's debut album because that album's
Oh,
incredible.
that is yeah.
Kevin, what you got for honorable mentions?
Okay, so I have one honorable mention that is an artist who's extremely mysterious. He's a songwriter from Texas called Danny Malone, and he put out a record. I don't even know when because it's the most classic mysterious artist thing of all time. It's been like deleted from the internet. But he put out an album called Cuddlebug, which is kind of a crazy album title, but the songs are so good. There's a song called Song for the Year, which I would absolutely have had on this playlist if it was online. But his second record, I think it's called Spider Legs, and everything beyond that is also really good, and they're out. So I recommend Danny Malone. Listen to what he's got on streaming, and also check out the miscellaneous music videos you can find of his because he's just so good and very mysterious. I don't know where he's been for the last. He hasn't made a post on Instagram since like 2021.
Sick. Okay.
And then I was considering totally derailing the playlist as well until I realized that this pick was actually technically from an EP, but I was going to do a song called Jesus and Tori from a band called The Number 12 Looks Like You. Their first
Oh,
EP called Put On Your Rosy Red Glasses. This is like the most brutal music I've ever heard in my life. And
that's
to
the other
this
side of Pure
day,
Volume. That's the grindcore
yes,
side.
yeah, I think that the Number 12, particularly this album or this EP and their first record. Actually, they had another album called Mongrel too. The first three releases I think are incredible. But this EP is full like it's just insane. If you've never heard it, it will blow your mind if you're into that sort of thing. And then my last honorable mention, which I'm sure everyone has heard, but I had a song from Pang by Caroline Polachek. I had Look at Me Now. Um, but I wanted to keep it a little bit more deep cuts. But
Yeah.
if you haven't heard that record for some reason, it's so good. The whole thing. And Look at Me Now, per my taste in this playlist, is the classic acoustic song.
Love it. Matt, what are your honorable mentions?
Well, the first song I wrote down when I was making my list was "You Get What You Give" by the New Radicals. I think
I
that's
almost
Dude.
just an
That's a
absolute.
total
I almost
smash.
did that one.
That's
Yeah.
a smash. And I had two songs I was going back and forth on, and I didn't even pick either of them. And it was "Glory Box" by Portishead and "Here's Where the Story Ends" by the Sundays. I just think that like both of those bands are just so crucial to the '90s. But I feel like but I also had "Icing on the Cake" by Graves from her first record from 2019. I think her getting Best New Music from Pitchfork for Janky Star 2 years ago was massive, but her first record is just one of the best pop records of the last 5 years. It sounds incredible, and I just like have this sneaking suspicion that she's going to blow up completely whenever she puts out her third record. And I went over like if I wanted that one to be on there, but she gets a little spot in the HMs, which is never a bad thing.
Sick. Plenty of good ones there. You know, honestly, last minute, I'm like, you could do Chaperone as well if you want. If you want to keep it the most relevant right now, but
You could.
Who?
I never heard of it. Lots of good options. I think this playlist is going to be a wild ride. In retrospect, I wish I went more off the rails. Like you had it right, Matt. You knew what you were doing. But cool. Thank you all for joining. I always love doing these. It's so fun. And
This is great.
I just love talking random tracks, and this will make for a good listen back.
Well, I can't wait to put this on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to it.
Gonna
For
be
sure.
good.
But thanks everyone for coming on. It's been great talking.
Hell yeah, thanks
you
for
so
having
much.
me.
Thanks for having me.